like Dion was doing like he was the tour. So he rolls into the locker room. I'm sitting down, I'm just happy to be there, right?
He's in the camouflage boots and all that?
I don't remember what he had on, but all I remember is he rolls in the locker room with MC Hammer, and he introduces himself to every
Dion.
Dion did.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, MC Hammer, I'm like, man, I don't know who the hell you are. I can't touch it, man.
Oh man, and that's your introduction to the league, man. You're like, damn, I'm a little ways off from Mount Union here right now. We got MC Hammer and Dion up in here.
Man, we used to have all kind of guys around. Snoop, because all the people were big Dion fans. I mean, his impact, even on Major League Baseball, when he was a baseball player of the league, that's when guys started wearing suits like that. It was Dion.
Yeah.
His influence back in the 90s in Atlanta being kind of like in the beginning of an epicenter where, young professionals were hanging out. So, I mean, Dion, I remember all those guys.
There was a movement down in that area, man. Big time.
Dion, all those guys were like, because he was a star amongst stars and he was good at baseball.
Yeah.
So.
Shit, he won a World Series and a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable.
Yeah, and all his boys used to be like these baseball players. I mean, he had friends in all the leagues and they used to all hang out together. I just remember back in the day, Ron Gann and Lemke and guys from all the other teams. Dion was the guy, man.
It's still crazy watching that 30 for 30, thinking that he was able to pull off 2 games in one day, to ball out on the football field, and then boom, I'm gonna jump on the chat and I'm gonna play in a baseball game that night, man.
Yeah.
They give kids a lot of flack around the areas. I mean, it's all about competition when you're in high school, so you should want to do every sport. But they were giving some kid flack, like, oh, he went out and did the golf tournament in the morning and played the football game that night. It's like, come on, man, he's 17, 18 years old. You got legs underneath you. If you're a competitor, that's what you want to do.
Just last week when I was at a football game, my son's football game in Gwinnett County, a parent from the school we're going against, Peachtree Ridge, came up and said, hey, my son, he wants to play 2 sports, but the coaches, they suspended him because he went to a baseball event during the week. And she wondered, what do you do about 2-way sports? I said, well, what you got to do is you're going to have to sit down with the coach and try to work it out. But most coaches aren't really interested in the quarterback not being there for summer workouts.
Right.
So it's a tough situation. I mean, there really is no answer. The answer is you ain't going to be a quarterback unless you're special.
Right.
Everybody's treated differently by your talent level, but what you just said actually just came up.
Man. All right, here we go, guys.
Okay.
Here on the 1372 show inside of Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium on the grounds of the Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls. QB OG, my man, QB number 1, the College Football Hall of Famer Jim Ballard. I'm TJ Downing, and we're joined by Dr. Rush, Chuck Smith, and I guess if we're starting off doing nicknames here, we got to find out, how did you get that name, Dr. Rush?
It's funny, a guy years ago, in 2013, I had a coach at Auburn who's now at Tennessee, Rodney Gardner. We always had a good relationship. So in 2013, a gang of his players were talking about they wanted to come train with me. So Rodney, gave their blessings, which, usually I like to get the blessing of the college coach when I get a group, because it was the entire Auburn defensive line. So so after we trained and those guys came out, I think they had a terrible year in 2012 and 13. I think they played for the national championship and they won, they lost, or something like that. But the point being, one of the media guys who was a writer for the Auburn, local kind of sports, paper, said, hey, Auburn, when they needed help, they reached out to hashtag Dr. Rush. It was like, who you going to call the doctor? I didn't give myself that, and I never
That's
did.
even better though, right?
Yeah, and so a guy
Blew up overnight on that one, man.
And the guy actually who did it, he's now at Oregon as kind of like their beat writer guy, and he was like, and it took off. And at the time, I had a lot of good clients, and they would, call me that. Like when they seen it, it was more like a teasing you. Hey, Dr. Rush, okay, Dr. Rush. And then it just kind of took off, man. And it's really a hashtag. I don't call myself Dr. Rush.
Okay.
It's really, somebody told me you need a hashtag. If you're in business, you got to have one good hashtag.
It's branding 101.
Yeah, so that's how it really came about.
He probably, that beat writer's probably up there telling Mario Cristobal, hey man, you need to get Kayvon Thibodeau with Dr. Rush if you want to be first round,
Whoa. We've already, man, that's my guy. I'll train Kayvon this summer.
Yep, I'll tell you what,
We already
a special
came
talent.
on.
I was really looking forward to seeing him play against Ohio State. I know he got a little bit banged up the week before. I think they were playing Fresno State. But that matchup with Thayer Munford and Nicholas Petit-Frere, both are going to be first-round draft picks out of Ohio State at tackle. That would have kind of been the proving ground. But nonetheless, I mean, what a special talent coming off the edge. Same as you, man. You come out of Tennessee. You're drafted in the second round, pick 51 overall to the Atlanta Falcons. Just jog that back a little bit before your career at Tennessee. You played under Johnny Majors.
Yes.
Coach Fulmer was there. You were probably giving him fits in 2 days of practices because he was running the offense. But talk about your time at Tennessee.
It was a great time at Tennessee. We were coming into what became a great era in 1990. We were the back-to-back SEC champs, and I think we tied with Florida that year. But it was a great time because the talent that they were bringing in, they went all in. So when I got there, we brought in, I want to say, 6 junior college players, and all of us were like the top players at our position. It was me, it was Dale Carter, it was Dave Thomas, who was a third rounder, it was Jeremy Lincoln.
And Heath Schuler is your quarterback.
Yeah.
He was drafted in my draft class in
Yeah.
'94.
Yep.
I believe he was the second quarterback taken behind Trent Dilfer that year.
Yeah. So, we had Alvin Harper, Anthony Morgan, Chuck Webb, Reggie Cobb. I can go down the list of
Man.
guys.
That's a who's who right there.
Chris Mims, who's a first rounder, Todd Kelly, a lot of guys. But it was a special time because the competition was fierce.
Yeah.
The guys were confident. We had guys, that when they walked through the dorm, they all of them walked with their chest out. It wasn't nobody turning down the work. And I will say this also that I don't think goes recognized enough. Johnny Majors was ahead of the curve. Johnny Majors, we was playing 4 wides back then with Alvin Harper, Carl Pickens, Anthony Morgan. We were playing 4 wides.
People didn't even know how to cover down on it, really.
Right, exactly. And David Cutcliffe was there. Randy Sanders was there. Earlier in my career, we had John Gruden, Kevin Steele, John Chavis. We had an unbelievable cast, but Johnny Majors doesn't get enough credit because we put 4 wides out. Most teams, especially the SEC, and then when Spurrier came in, then he came with the funding gun, but we were already, we were already putting receivers out there. But it was an unbelievable time I had at Tennessee. Fond memories. I really can't complain.
How did that whole recruiting process work for you? Was it always Tennessee, or were there some other people in the picture with you?
Well, early on, it was Tennessee, and Ohio State got in the mix a little bit, but y'all's coach got fired. Maybe it was Earl Bruce or one of those coaches.
Earl, yep.
And then it was like a while before they got another coach. And then when I kept looking at Ohio State, then I hated the big numbers, man, they had back then. So I hated the big numbers. But no, seriously, they recruited me and all the way through. And but it was like those guys, and I was going to stay in my region.
Yeah.
There was no reason for me to really leave. The SEC or the ACC. Clemson was in my number 2. Georgia wasn't an option because Georgia wasn't in the championship business for a long time.
Yeah.
So people look at them now. And we played.
They were
Georgia
just
was
average.
terrible.
They were average at best back in the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah, Ohio State was always good. Michigan was good, but it was going to be a regional team for me.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to go to the U.
Right.
They weren't recruiting. I mean, the U back then, you had to be something.
That was it.
South, I wanted to go to the U. Seriously, I had when I was growing up, I had the Miami. They had the shiny one like Uncle Luke, and you see 2 Live Crew.
Yep.
What I'm talking about.
The U was the stuff back then, and I had all the hats and
Did
stuff.
you?
I wanted to go to Miami.
They won't recruit me though.
Yeah, you talk about them coming in with the fatigues on, man. Watch out for Jerome Brown when he getting off the airplane. Jerome ain't playing around.
No, he's not.
Hey, when you look at Tennessee, you talked about ushering in kind of that new wave of success, and obviously when Coach Fulmer took over, he made the College Football Hall of Fame, I believe, just 4 years after you did, Jim, in 2008. That era, you got T. Martin, you got Peyton, you got a national championship. You kind of laid the groundwork for that, but you talk about a special career for you there, back-to-back SEC championships, and one thing you and I both have in common, we're both alums of the Fiesta Bowl, man. Talk about the bowl experience for you, man. Everybody hypes up the Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl, but there's really nobody out there, and I played in 4 Fiesta Bowls. There's nobody out there that treats you like Scottsdale does, man. What a great area that is, man. And that venue, we actually played in the last one that was in Sun Devil Stadium, and just playing on the side of that mountain and the stadium itself, man, that's a special place out there.
Yeah, we had a ball at the Fiesta Bowl, even though we lost to Penn State, and like Tony Sacca and remember O.J. McDuffie, they were like pretty awesome. And it's funny, seeing Joe Paterno over there. Now I look back and, one of those memories, you're like, okay, wow, he was a, legendary coach. And, but the Fiesta Bowl was really special. It's funny, that's the first time I went to a strip club. No, seriously, it was like the first time.
Scott's still don't play, man.
If I tell you this story, you're gonna laugh, and this has to do with the Fiesta Bowl. So we're in the parking lot, right after the practice. I don't know, we're in the parking lot for some reason. Me and a couple of the guys. Oh, I know what we're doing. This was after practice in the parking lot. NBC was doing interviews, right? Hey, listen. So I get an interview, me and a couple of guys. And I get an interview with NBC, and it's Ahmad Rashad, right? And next to him waiting is O.J. Simpson.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Seriously. So the interview gets, Ahmad's, and I'm not throwing him under the bus or nothing. It was just, or throwing O.J. under the bus. But I remember Ahmad was like, okay, he got done, it was cool, thank you, super proper. Then O.J. was there like, yo, the mics went off. Young Bucks, what y'all doing tonight? Drinks on me. Let's go to the strip club. Seriously, y'all. Real talk. And we went. Tennessee, look, hey, we went. This is, and remember now, this is 93.
Yep.
Yeah, this ain't nothing. This is totally different time. When I talk about O.J. Simpson, it was that was the first time, and it was with O.J. Simpson. And OJ, we had a ball. It was like 13 of us. And you're not supposed to be in there, by, coach, how the bowl games. Right. So we went in there and, kicked it. The Fiesta Bowl was fantastic. But to me, the best one I ever was in was the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
Because that is the SEC's bowl.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That is, like, I dreamed of playing in the Sugar Bowl my entire life. We played Virginia. We wish we had a better opponent, even though they were like the #1 team that year. But they got beat, right? I'm gonna say Georgia Tech beat them, who won the national title and tied it with Colorado. But that was the great one, and on that day, that was the first time I hit Bourbon Street. So I had a lot of firsts with you. Hey, there was some happy times at the bowl game, man. Bourbon Street was woo, canal.
I'll tell you what, a former teammate of mine, for about 5 minutes, I signed with the Falcons.
Oh, yeah.
In 96, Jeff George held out,
Yep.
Smitty was there.
Yep.
That was, you talk about your first titty club experience. or dancing bar, whatever you want to go. Mine was at Buckhead.
Was
in
it?
Atlanta. The place was off the chart, man. Even in the 90s, it was still popping.
Atlanta, people always, listen, when people come to Atlanta, they always talk about that. But, like, as you live there, like now, it's like a touristy spot. And like the young locals. But I'm gonna tell you this though, strip clubs with the new social media and the influence of culture, they're like mainstream in music and you know what I mean? A lot of girls that, I know I'm getting into something that we're not going into, but a lot of girls now that are entertainers were former strippers.
No doubt.
So now strip club is like, it's not like the old days, it was taboo. Now
Look at Cardi B. Look how much money that girl has made right there, and she used to be a dancer.
Yep.
And now she's been on top of the world here for a while.
So it's a little mainstream, but I don't go. I ain't been to strip club in 15 years. I'm serious.
Hey,
I got 21
me
years.
too, man. Yeah.
21 years. My wife ain't here now.
I'm going for number 5, man. I don't want to lose out on that, so I stay at home if you can.
That's right.
Hey, you mentioned, we were talking a little bit last week, your son, he's playing down at Wofford. You have 3 kids, Chuck the fourth, Maddox, and Giovanni. Talk about your kids and even the special experience of being able to see your son play football just like you did.
Well, it starts out with my daughter, Giovanni. She's a powerhouse. She went to Alabama A&M. She's a sorority girl. She's an AKA. Got her master's at Georgia Tech. She's about to have a child. I'm about to be a granddad.
Congratulations.
Any day now.
That's awesome,
You
man.
know, so, but my daughter's a go-getter. She's tough, super go-getter. I mean, that's the best way I can describe her.
She like you going after a quarterback.
Yeah, but she's into the politics and the business. She's really a go-getter, super blessed. And I was adopted as a child, so my daughter's the first person I ever saw that looked like me. So I was adopted at birth. And so we have a special bond from that standpoint because she's the first one. And if you've ever known someone's been adopted, Imagine going your whole life and never seeing someone look like that.
Yeah, I've never heard that from somebody before, man.
Yeah,
That's an interesting take on it, man. And I can understand how that's probably stuck with you for a long time.
Yeah, and so that's what made my daughter like, wow, you know, it's super special. And you know, my two sons, I always wanted to have boys, but you know, my kids are like, man, my 16-year-old, you know, he's smart, tough, he has a great body and shows it off. I mean, every day he like does a routine every day, does 100 sit-ups, 100 push-ups, all that kind of stuff. You know, he's works hard in school, and but he's a little bit of my knucklehead son. You know, he's one that me and my wife have to get after. My oldest, excuse me, my oldest son Chucky. He's the kind of man that you want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to give him credit. I mean, he's always been confident. He smiles everywhere he goes. We never had to tell him to do homework. He's self-motivated. Never. Would do his own schedule. And like even now, he's a joy to be around. And I just pray that it stays that way. Because I'm serious, man. I'm not joking. It's like this dude gets too perfect.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, man, and just his DNA, and he's tough, hardworking in football. And the thing about my son is, even like as his recruiting went, he really he wasn't chasing schools. He's like, whoever wants me, Dad, that's where I'm gonna go. So he, you know, a lot of kids get depressed and let that recruiting thing.
Especially if it's not big time, well, I gotta go D1, if it's D1 or bust, and, I mean, find a place, what's the big picture? You know, and anymore, like when we were playing, you know, there wasn't all the social media, there wasn't huddle.
Right.
I mean, nobody's missing a kid if you're that good. They're gonna
Right.
find you, whether, you know,
Yeah.
for even me in the 90s in D3 school, you know, one double A guys are making it all the time. So big picture wise, you go somewhere where you love to be, you go somewhere that if for some reason you get hurt, you like it there, you wanna stay there, you're gonna graduate. That's the big picture. We use this game to get us to college, to
Right.
get us a little better job.
Right.
It was crazy. We were talking about Mike Ken earlier, a guy that we had on the show a couple weeks back, and a guy that when you came into the league, he was on the tail end of his 17th year in the NFL. And he was a guy that told us, I mean, he didn't even get recruited really coming out of college. I mean, it was really Michigan or going down to Arizona, you know, because he was skinny, he wasn't filled out as an offensive lineman, you know, and some guys are late bloomers, and you see how that works out for people. And when you got there to Atlanta, I mean, talk about, we know as players, man, you got the different level jumps from high school to college. You're like, wow, okay, you know, the speed is way different. But, you know, coming from Tennessee to the league, you played against a lot of dudes 3 or 4 years in Tennessee that were already playing in the league after they had graduated. So was that jump a lot for you? Was it, wow, man, going against some of these big daddies like Mike Ken, man, I got to really step my game up?
No, it took me 2 years to be strong enough to become a starter and have success. It wasn't the speed of the game, it was just the strength. It was just different. You know, the guys, the craftiness, like playing, you know, going against a tight end. In college, the tight end couldn't even I could mash him.
Right.
In the pros, when I got in the NFL, I mean, those guys were stout.
They holding the ground like a tackle was.
Yeah, and double teams. I mean, there was one time I was in the cleanup game against the Niners in 1992. They were, you know, special. I mean, they literally they double teamed me, knocked me back like seriously, legitimately 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. It was more like funny because, you know, in the NFL, you know, when the game's over, you just stay in. You know, the backups are in. It's not like a substitution pattern.
Right.
So they were up 40-2 or something, you know, with Steve and that phenomenal team they had. So to me, it was that physical part, and it took me a long time to be able to add power into my pass rush, but as well as learn moves. So no, I'd be telling a lie if I say, well, it was the same as it was, but it was the strength of the men. That's what got me the most. And so it took me a couple of years to make an adjustment, and just working out really is what I try to work out and gain more weight and be stronger.
All that put together, you get into 97, and that's probably your best year in the league, right? You're all pro. I mean, talk about that season. I mean, really, it all just kind of came together for you, and it was the perfect storm coming off the edge.
Yeah, I was blessed to have Chris Dolman came to my team.
God rest his soul, man.
Yeah. I got to watch Pierce Holt, who really was one of my mentors, and he was an incredible defensive tackle that played with the Niners during their heyday. Most people that are listening probably won't know him, but Kevin Fagan, part of the Gold Rush Niners, who won some championships. And I had a great coach who's still a coach now, Bill Kolar, who's I'd say one of the greatest D-line coaches of all time. You know, it just came to me, I don't know how, but there's something in my life that I think only God can explain. Every 2 years from the time I was in high school, I got better. Like when I was in the 8th grade, I'd be like 3rd string, 4th string, or might be out of position. 2 years later, I would just get better.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like in high school, I'm a sophomore. I'm like not starting, just, you know, I'm a good, tough guy on the field. But then 2 years later, same thing. You know, I end up having to go to junior college. I get there, I'm like 6th string. With you know, I mean, JUCO is, that's a 20 for 20 within itself to show a, you know, but so then every 2 years I got better, just like with the Falcons. It was like first 2 years, average, 3, 4, 5, you know, getting better, and I just kept getting better every 2 years. And that's what happened in '97. It was in my 2-year window, and I really believe it. I can't explain it. I really can't. But it's a fact how my career went.
Yeah.
And because I just never quit. I never gave up. And I think back, like now, you know, I catch hell trying to go get 3 workouts in a week. But back then I would catch, you know, 6 workouts in a week. So it's hard to explain, but I look at it as in '97, that 2-year window was there for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It
Just
seems,
start to figure it out.
yeah.
Get used to it, and
yes.
then your body changes, and you get coached better, and it probably didn't hurt having a quarterback and a middle linebacker named Tuggle, did it?
No, that didn't hurt. You know what? That's a great point. But you know, it's funny. Well, I tell you what helped me a lot in the NFL was we got away from the run and shoot. Because June Jones was all about offense. When you think back, and you know, June,
Mouse Davis was
Mouse
there.
Davis, and it was really unfair towards defense. We'd have days where if the offense didn't get their plays in and get it correct, we'd stay longer.
Yeah.
We'd stay longer. I mean, you talking about getting 70? I'm getting 40 pass rushes a day. It helped me. But remember,
You're over there wondering where that collective bargaining agreement is, man. What's our practice over?
Yeah, and you're right. And you know what? We had, I want to say it might have been 96 to 95. We had like a record hamstrings getting pulled. I mean, June was all about offense, so defense, it wasn't really that important. We were treated differently, it just is what it is. Because June the Mouse, I mean,
It's like 2 separate teams.
It was 2 separate teams. And when Dan Reeves came in, Dan was like really good.
Yeah.
And it helped us to get Chris Chandler too, because he was not a leader like a Bobby Hebert, but he wasn't like a person like Jeff George who really just was about numbers. But Chris Chandler, during that time, we really needed him. You know, for the years I was there, Chris Chandler, the 3 years he played with me, he was fantastic.
Great leader.
And
Great
all
player.
and all of that. I mean, I guess you talk about yourself getting better every 2 years. It almost seems like every team you were on, they just started to progress as well. So it shows what caliber of player you were and how you impacted your teams. But you talk about Dan coming in, Chandler. You guys hit the Super Bowl. Friend of the 1372 show, Morton Anderson. You know, talk about that game. You know, you're sitting there thinking we did
Yeah.
everything we could to stop Minnesota on this last drive, and you're thinking, okay, they got Gary Anderson. You know, he's been a legend in the league for a long time. Talk about what you were thinking in your head on the sidelines, thinking, please just don't make this field goal.
And
Please
the
don't make
dude
this."
hadn't missed. He hadn't
Right.
missed a kick.
Yeah, well, I was out there on the field. And
You were on the field goal block.
yeah.
Okay.
I was on the field goal block, and we were saying really mean stuff to him. Me and Shane Brunette. It's funny, the right side of our
That's
D-line.
what did it right there.
Yeah, seriously, me and Shane
That's it.
Brunette were like the real, you know, talkers. And on the left side, we had Lester Archambault and Travis Hall were like really nicer. You know, they wouldn't curse or nothing. I remember walking, Shane saying, just to kind of walked up on him, like, yeah, you little BIT, you know, that thing. And,
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, hey, man, you're going to be forever. I said, history's going to make itself, man. You're going to be looked at as a loser forever.
Ooh, that's worse than
No,
being called
no.
a bitch, for sure.
No, seriously, I said that.
History.
Seriously. I'm
They're
telling
never
you.
going to forget
I'm
you.
telling you, he knows it. He knows it. And, you know, we was just, it was desperation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you said, the guy had missed. And at that point, you know how history writes itself, rights really a wrong. And Gary Anderson was a fantastic kicker, but he was never Morton Anderson.
Right.
Never. Morton just played in New Orleans.
That's why he's right over here.
Yeah, yeah. And again, Gary is a great one.
Yeah.
But there's questions. Morton, to me, is he the GOAT? Or
Yeah.
the kid from Indianapolis now to go.
Vinatieri.
Yeah, when he goes in. But Morton Anderson was before his time, no question. But listen, but when history writes itself, Morton won, the thrill of victory, agony, defeat.
Yeah.
One of them got the thrill of victory, and the other one got the agony of defeat. And I hate that what happened to Gary, because it sounds like afterwards he had some tough times.
Yeah.
But Morton on the other end of the skip back to that cocky sucker, he got shows, he lived
The
on the
Great
lane, and he'll pull that yellow jacket out on you. Hey, it ain't got to be an event.
And now I spent some time with him
Oh,
and
my goodness.
when they were honoring him. And
Yeah.
he was talking about, I'm a U.S. citizen now, and Todd Collins and Trent Green were giving him the business. All the money he says he's making because he's
Our sideline partner who works with us broadcasting football games actually was Morton's driver the week he was in here getting inducted, and everybody can tell with Morton, he's not your typical Hall of Famer. You've been around some dudes that's like, hey, listen, I'm not signing any autographs out at the club. I'm gonna need $50 or $75. Says that Morton will open his time up to anybody, and what a great dude, man. But I mean, to think that, you're sitting there thinking, just please don't make this, and we're going to the Super Bowl. And then boom, you get there, Dan Reeves squaring off with the Broncos, who he had lost 3 Super Bowls with, and you got John Elway, and you're over here thinking, man, and that was that the helicopter game, or was that the year before with the Packers, where John went up and he got hit and kind of.
That was the Packers.
That was the Packers, okay.
Yeah, he didn't need to do that.
But still, for you as a defensive end, you're like, man, I got to shut down one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and that ain't no easy task.
No, it wasn't, and we knew that, we had to stop the running game, and with Davis, which we didn't have a lot of success. John was phenomenal. I think he threw for almost 400 yards on us. They ran on us. We had no answer for McCaffrey, nor I can't remember the other guy's names, but Shannon Sharp got hurt. Shannon got hurt like the first play of the game. People forget.
I didn't remember that.
Shannon got hurt like the first play of the game. I remember because I collapsed him in the sixth. I was in the sixth, and he tried to, he ran to stretch my side, and then I just fired off, and I caught him. He was trying to reach me.
Jammed his ass
and
up.
I pushed him over the pile, and he was out.
Oh, man.
And, but, people always look back at that.
We're going to have to send this to him and Skip.
Yeah.
So he can review
yeah,
that.
Yeah, right. And it wasn't they could do. It was a guy behind him tripped up or something. But you know what? When I look back, people always ask us about that game, and I always say, you know what? A lot of negative things happened around that game for us that week, but let's give them credit. They got Hall of Famers.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we have none on our team. Well, Morton. But what I'm saying is, they got hella dudes who are, that are next level type of players. So give John those guys credit, because people in Atlanta always want to blame what happened to us on Eugene Robinson when he got jammed up that night. But it's not true. I said, dude, I'm going to, they got Slareth. I'm going against the legendary Tony Jones. May he rest in peace, who at that time had made, 7 Pro Bowls.
Right.
I can go across the board what they had. So we lost to the better team won, and they were, from Romanowski, I can't even name all the cornerbacks and, all the D linemen they had, and Atwater. So, it was but I tell you this, I'd rather have gotten to the Super Bowl and lost every Super Bowl than never get to one.
Right.
Because if you get to one to see what it's like, you can't even, unless you've been in the Super Bowl, you can have been to a lot of them, you can broadcast a lot of them, but it's a different kind of vibe when you're on that platform. It's like a utopia,
right?
Until you lose.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned OJ and some guys. So my dad actually he won Super Bowl 16 with Joe Montana and the 49ers. Was there as they kind of ushered in that gold rush defense. Guys like Dwight Hicks and Ronnie Lott, Carlton Williamson, but.
Fred Dean.
Fred Dean, God rest his soul too, man. Was one of the greatest defensive ends to ever do it. Hacksaw Reynolds. But OJ was with the 49ers in '79, which would have been my dad's second year in the league. My dad's blocking for OJ. OJ does the whole retirement thing. They shut down Candlestick Park for his last carry. And so, sure enough, they get up into the Pontiac Silverdome, man, and they're all hanging out partying after the Super Bowl victory. And who comes walking in with the big mink coat on? OJ was there to party down with the Niners. Oh yeah, no doubt about it, man. But you're right, though. it's the culmination of everything, of your career,
Yeah.
from high school to college to, you know, as you said, how many dudes get into the league and don't even get a chance to sniff at it? I think, again, back to a guy like Mike Kent, you know, how many lean years were there in Atlanta before you got there, and even while you were there? You
Right.
know, I mean, and then boom, you guys usher in that new wave, and Falcons took off again, and after the Super Bowl, they make it to another one
Right.
against the Patriots, but a lot of success had just come rolling in.
You know what? When you get the NFL, your career is a lot of time dictated by your draft day. If you go to, when I was in the draft, at the time, if you went to New Orleans, you really had no chance to become a Hall of Famer or even become a consistent, you know, perennial Pro Bowler. That's
Dead
what
in the
makes
water.
what Willie Roaf did so special. I want to say Willie never had another Pro Bowl or something with him in 10 years.
Wow.
But like in my era, when I came into Atlanta, we were expected to be better because the year before they were too legit to quit.
Yep.
But if I was drafted by Dallas in that era, who's to say I don't have 130 sacks, I'll have 3 Super Bowl wins. So your draft day in your career, like Mike Ken, his draft day was dictated by Atlanta.
Yep.
Some people get to go to the Giants, and some people end up going to, I was going to say Cincinnati, but they were really good back then.
Good
But
back
you know,
then, Tampa Bay.
Tampa,
something like that.
exactly. So you know what I'm saying?
One of the
how it
lesser
works.
teams, and it's
Yeah.
tough to,
It's tough sometimes.
you know, especially, you know, you're a young player, your team's not very good, quarterback's even worse. I mean, you got, you know, no real offseason with
Right.
guys, you're going in, and then a new system, new coach, you're thrust into this position, and, you know, your team's just not very good.
Right.
Look what's going on with the Jets and Wilson just got hurt, and, I mean, you see it all the time, not just with quarterbacks, but with young players and bad teams, Jacksonville.
Right. Let me make a quick point, and it's even harder on Mike because there was no free agency.
Right.
It was Plan B. So really, it's unfair because of guys like Mike, they just couldn't go.
leave.
He couldn't leave. He couldn't just go to a great team.
Right, and what he told us too was like he was on a suicide mission because he had taken over as the NFLPA president, and he said that was a 2-year. You were out of the league. Anybody who'd been president before him had been out of the league in 2 years because all the owners were like, "Yo, you're battling against us. Boom, let's chop you, send you to a bad squad, and you're just gonna be done." And he did it for 8 years, and really fought for a lot of those player rights, man. For you guys to be able to make the money that you deserve. If these owners are making this type of money, the players that put the butts in the sands and get the W's, they need that money. They need to be backed by their owners and know that they have that financial support. But another thing I had to bring up with you, you know, we talked about Chris Dolman. You got a chance to play with a guy that was a gold jacket, that probably taught you a lot. You probably learned a lot from him, from what he did defensive end-wise. But at the tail end of your career, you got a chance to play with Reggie White. Talk about how special that was.
It was special just to be on the field with him a couple times, you know, and that was incredible just to watch him work and, you know, kind of see even at that age. I want to say Reggie had 7.5 that year. I know on
This
Monday
is
Night
greatness
Football.
in front of me, man.
Yeah, I remember on Monday Night Football, I was injured. I remember he got like 3 sacks and was like the defensive player of the game. He was at Carolina. It was phenomenal just getting a chance to play with him because we were always good friends. One time he was like my mentor, then we just got to become cool. And it really started because my agent, Jimmy Sexton, he had Reggie.
Legend.
Yeah, you know, Jimmy was at Tennessee, you know, and you know,
He's
at
had
the
some
time-
of the best players ever come through the league.
Yeah, and then at Tennessee, so you know how I really met Reggie. I had got in trouble at Tennessee, and so I was going over to see this guy named Tim Karen, who's the disciplinarian. He was our trainer, but he was the disciplinarian. I got in some trouble, and I was walking over there, and then I was leaving, and I was, you know, at one point thinking they might kick me out of school. And this is the first time I met Reggie. Reggie was in there, he had been holding out or something, and he was in there working one-on-ones with Tim Irwin, an offensive tackle for the Vikings who played like about 17, 18 years. He was a judge now, I think, in Knoxville. So I was leaving, and Reggie pulled up, and I had tears in my eyes, and Reggie said, "Hey, son, you know, what's going on? What's your name?" I said, Chuck Smith. He said, "Chucky Smith." He said, "What's going on?" He said, "Man, I think they're about to kick me out of school. I would tell my parents." And he said, "Man, you ain't going nowhere. You're a ball for life." And so he said, "You know what?" And then I said, "Hey, man, will you help me learn pass rush when I'm in college?" And he said, "Yeah, well, meet me in front of the Gibbs Hall, which was our dorm. We had athletic dorms back then. And me and Sarah pick you up at 6 in the morning. So I stood out there, it was about 5:30, 5:45, and all of a sudden, around the corner came a big white Mercedes. And him and his wife Sarah were there. I didn't even have a suit to wear, you know, and I don't have the hood story where I grew up I didn't have stuff. I just didn't have any stuff.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this is not the poor man, you know, I was there. I want to make sure people that are listening. So they picked me up. We went to Reggie's church, and it was like a turn up. You know, what I mean, it was the Southern Baptist, and that's how we sparked a friendship. And so it moved all the way forward. That was with Carolina, that moved forward. And
You're talking late '80s when you first met him, and then that's 2000.
We ended up playing together, and we ended up all throughout those years. Even when he was a free agent, when he did the first free agent big tour. When he came to Atlanta, it was in 1992. Reggie came through, and Jimmy came. Atlanta was one of the teams he visited.
Okay.
On the strength of your boy, and but he wasn't coming, so we went to dinner. I actually was a part of that, a little bit of that history. I was at the dinner with me, Jimmy, Taylor Smith, Jerry Glanville.
Wow.
And Reggie was cracking jokes on me about getting 2 sacks and stuff like that. Then I cracked on Reggie.
Couldn't get 3.
Then Jimmy whispered in my ear. So we're sitting at a table, and Reggie's like, yeah, Chuck, he got 2 sacks this year. You know how Reggie's. I'm just telling you, man. He's what they say. I mean, this dude be cracking jokes like all the time. So it's like, yeah, Reg, I got 2 sacks. He's like, who's it against? I said Jackie Slater, right? So the next day, we watching film. This is a dinner. It was on like Friday. Next day, we're watching film, and Reggie's in there, Jimmy's in there, Taylor, Bill Kolar, the D-line coach. So we're watching film, right? And the 2 sacks I got really were bootlegs.
Jackie ain't even touch you. He ran the other way.
It was like I stole sacks, and Reggie went in, clowning, and making. At that time, man, he was like, and I was a young dude, so he was on me hard. And look, Jimmy leans over and says, Chuck, just say Eric Williams.
Oh, Big Daddy.
There's one guy that Reggie didn't like that put his hands and whooped Reggie tail that year. It was Eric Williams. And I said, what about, I said, don't let me say nothing about Eric Williams. He got very sensitive. Hey, what you talking about? But to finish the long story short on Reggie White, I was the D-line coach at Tennessee in 2011. And when I was there, I introduced the VFL concept to Juwan James, who's in the NFL now. So the big #1 hashtag now is Fall for Life, VFL, and that was part of what Reggie said to me. And at the time, all the kids were throwing up not really gang signs. Now they do all this. It's not a gang sign. It's just I'm from like Atlanta. They do this for Atlanta.
Yep.
So at the time, I was like VFL. I told Juwan James. And I never got any money off of it, but they're making billions of dollars, millions of dollars off the VFL concept, the Vol for Life. They got Vol for Life films. So that's a lot to do with my Reggie White story, and I got a lot more, but I don't want to bore you guys with it.
Oh, man, you never bore us with that. We know you're going to be in town, so we can always come back here and run it back with you, man. But, you talked a little bit about that culture that it kind of changed down there in the Atlanta area, and he kind of hit on it for a second, man, with what Jamal dropped. I mean that you talk about VFL blowing up.
Right.
When Jamal did that dirty bird dance in the back of the end zone, that thing took off and running.
We're by a long shot the most popular team in Falcons history.
Yeah.
One of them.
For sure.
I would say the 95 Braves or something. The one championship we had with Smoltz and all them guys. But as far as I think we fit in there. I kind of think now last year's Hawks are going to fit in the mix with the great, fans. But the Dirty Bird, man, is a brand. It sparked a culture. It's used today. People, when they say the Falcons, they love Dirty Bird. And some of them don't even know who the hell we were.
Don't even know who the hell Jamal Anderson is.
Yeah, most of them don't.
But you're still the Dirty Birds.
Yeah, and we that dance, the fans. This is really funny. So the Falcons have been on. They've been up until 3 years ago. They're pretty successful. Since Matt Ryan's been there, they've been competitive. Had some bad years and ups and downs and some bad moments. But forever, when Arthur Blank took over the Atlanta Falcons, his number one agenda was to erase everything that Taylor Smith ever had created.
Yeah,
Because they were considered what? Losers.
yeah,
We had never won back-to-back, seasons. They've never had back-to-back winning seasons. So he built his whole platform. We're going to do everything better, and it's just a fact. Everybody knows it. I mean, he didn't. And, they one time they had a pass the magic thing. The Dirty Bird thing was so daunting that he wanted to move away from it, right? So So all these years, the fans, they're Dirty Birds. I mean, they dirty every time we score. It's ironic, the last 2 years, and it was shocking to all of us in the media. People couldn't believe it because they've never. When we have anniversaries of the team, they don't even have an event. They don't even mention it. We had our 20th anniversary. The Falcons never even mentioned it, man.
wow.
People in the media would, kind of mention it. I'm telling you, man, and there's no relationship because, the Arthur Blank people, I mean, Arthur has he's Arthur Blank, he's Home Depot. So the guys that are average players that weren't as good as we were are the guys that are mainly featured now.
Yeah.
They don't write history where they talk about us.
Right.
But history is so strong, they cannot not talk about us because the fans, it's Dirty Birds. And everywhere we go, I'm famous in one city, seriously. That's not something that I feel makes me special. But I'm famous in Atlanta.
Right.
Hey,
Special place.
I can walk through Cleveland butt naked and nobody ain't gonna know me. Or Akron. But in Atlanta, and that's just from that 1 year.
Right.
It's not from my what happened to me in my younger days when it comes to getting double-digit sacks. And so now moving forward, it's funny, the last 2 years, the Falcons actually came out and said, hey, our new nickname is the Dirty Birds. We encourage you to do the dances. They open up games on the screen. Now, we still have never had Jamal Anderson go in there and do it. We still have, they don't embrace what we did, because you gotta think, man, about the NFL. When Arthur got the team, they wanted to separate themselves. They didn't bring us all together. You know what the ironic part about the whole thing is? When they lost 20-3, one game trumped almost 30 years of football when it comes to the history. The 28-3 game in our market, they don't talk about the 1980 when Bartkowski and those guys blew a game to the Cowboys, the NFC Championship.
Yep.
So now guess what? We're all lumped together. So now they ended up #Dirty Birds. It's everywhere. It's shocking. We're literally, when we started seeing it, it was like our mouths open. Because if you guys don't know Atlanta history, really, obviously I'm just kind of giving you a synopsis. It's actually stunning that they were forced to, because we were the only way that they could bring the fans together, and it was through the Dirty Bird.
That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, so that Dirty Bird thing, wherever we go, if I say Dirty Birds, I mean, there's no one ever had that name.
Yeah.
At any level. So it's Atlanta, and I'm proud of it. The fans really are supportive of no matter what the Falcons say. The fans even know the storyline. I'm serious. It's an amazing thing, and so now, we're all kind of fused together somewhat, not necessarily we're working together, but we're connected by the good and the bad. So what Arthur wanted didn't happen, because he's done from Jim Moore to Mike Vick. I mean, his little time ownership has had more drama.
Big time.
Bobby Petrino, I can go down the list.
Ooh,
I mean,
that
I can go
one
to list.
was ugly.
This is
Especially
Arthur
the
Blank
coach.
now.
Yep.
Dan Quinn keeping Dan giving Julio Jones $60 million when. So Arthur Blank actually, he's done a solid job, but he's basically been like Taylor Smith was.
Right, and I know when you say, the popularity may come for 1 year, man, but when you put on for the city for 7-8 years, man, and have over 50 sacks in the league, I mean, obviously, it's a staple in your career, and it led you to a lot of other things post-career, man. Talk about some of that stuff you've done radio-wise, V103, Dukes and Bell. Talk about where people can find you at as well here coming up.
Yeah, when I got out the NFL, I went right into sports talk radio. My degree's in broadcast journalism and speech communication. So at one point I wanted to, help people write speeches and things like that, but that didn't, go far, because I was able to jump right into radio, I had a show on 790 The Zone in Atlanta. It was called we would call Monsters of the Midday. Actually, we stole that name.
I like it. Monsters of the Midway
We
to the
stole that name
Midday.
from some guys from Chicago. People in there, my partner Matt Chernoff, who's really big time still there now, actually hated that name, but I was like, okay. But I went there, then I went to Frank and Wanda, was on that show, was like a legendary show in Atlanta. They were like 16 years, #1. Frank Ski's the guy who wrote the song Doo-Doo Brown. He wrote, "There's some moves in this house" that just made millions of dollars on Cardi B. So
Here
he's
she
a
comes,
legend.
popping up again on us.
Yeah, so
Right.
Frank, I was on that show. But all along, man, I was working at CNN. I would do things with Nancy Grace. You know, I would, like, when the Mike Vick thing was going on, I would be like in the town hall meeting. You know, I would do anything. There was a time where anything like Nancy Grace, I would do with, like, Nancy Grace, like Rush Limbaugh, when he had a town hall meeting, he was against Mike Vick. I was, trying to explain, but I was doing stuff like that. And, I had shows with like SEC TV with Dave Neal.
You
guys
opened up
like
the door for Coy Wire, man. You opened it up for him.
Croy boss, yeah, I was doing it before Croy. So media was always, I've worked in media. I tell people, they say, well, how what, you always did media? I said, I've got to check in the media every year since 1992.
Yeah.
I've been lucky, man, that I think also being from Athens and being able to be on both sides of the fence, being a local, being a former Falcon, being a high school player there. It's like I can work for CBS, I can work for Fox, I can work for WSB, because I'm kind of like neutral. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like I've been on so many platforms. It's not like we're in competition.
Right.
Because I'm not, writing stories or breaking news.
They bring you in just because they know they're going to get great content.
Yeah.
That's why we got you right here, man.
Yeah. I'm like, and so I've been doing it for a long time, and then eventually I got, I went into coaching, stopped on media, then I started, I resigned out of coaching because it wasn't a good fit. I didn't get along with the coaches at Tennessee. Just keeping it 100 with you guys. So I went and I started being a consultant for NFL teams and college teams and training players. And again, my agent Jimmy Sexton said after I left Tennessee, I wasn't exactly on a winning streak when it came to my relationship with the school or the coaches. Jimmy said, Chuck, go back to what you do best. Train the kids, but here's the next step I want you to take. Start consulting, and when you get the kids, you'll control the game.
Yeah.
So
It's great advice. So with that, you obviously did a ton of broadcasting, a lot of shows, did a little bit of coaching. How did you find your way to Canton? To be a part of the NFL Alumni Academy?
wow, that's an interesting question, and it's
coming full circle.
it's funny. It's a good question because it'll start with my ending. It starts with my ending at Tennessee. One of our coaches on the staff is a legendary wide receiver coach who was at Tennessee with me. His name was Charlie Baggett. He's a wide receiver coach. He was in Minnesota forever, did Chris Carter, he did a lot of guys.
He was there with Dean Dalton.
He was there with Dean Dalton.
Coach Tice.
Yep, he was there with Tice. Exactly. So they were talking to Charlie about possibly being a receiver coach when they were, looking to have, everyone before the, COVID stuff that went down. So Charlie said, hey man, you have any ideas on someone who can do D-line? And Charlie recommended me. And then how I met Charlie
That's
was
awesome.
at Tennessee. So all these different things, it's that same 2-year blessing that God gives me. I'm serious. I'm telling you.
God's good, man.
And that's how it's like every one of those years, every 2 years, I just kept going and going and going. And I gotta, give a lot of credit to my wife, because there are times in my life, in my career, there were up and down moments, but I just kept going. That every 2-year thing went well, but there are times where, even though I looked like everything was perfect, but it wasn't always perfect. So my wife always really held me accountable and helped me. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a true story. People all the time just throw it in there as a cliche. Well, my wife, thanks to my wife. Man, there were times. There were times. After I lost my Tennessee gig, dude, I was super depressed, man. There were times where I lost radio jobs. I was super depressed, but it was like I was weird. I couldn't show it in the public, so I kept being that dude. So eventually, I had counseling and stuff like that, man. So, and all this journey that everybody's listening to, all throughout it, I had highs and lows. I have counseling for depression. I would, I'd have counseling for, drinking. You know what I'm saying? So all along, I don't want people to just think it was perfect.
Right.
But
And that's
yeah.
real talk that people
Yeah.
need to hear, because they expect somebody like Chuck Smith to be this big badass defensive end that everything is perfect for him, and he can fight and dominate anything. And you know, Kevin Love brought a lot of attention to the mental side of things. Athletes all around every sport, they're bringing attention to it, and it's got to be something real that we all have to be able to sit down and have open dialogue about, man.
The great
There
thing is too.
there ain't nothing wrong with shedding a couple tears, man. There's nothing wrong with being down. It's the people that you have around you to help lift you up.
Yeah, and you know, the NFL Alumni Association, the benefits that they provide for
Right.
former players. I mean, I'm the same way. I've been in counseling through Cigna for 6.5 years, and it's hard. And you know, you talked about it. I mean, I went through, you know, a couple divorces, and what a wife goes through as far as just playing. You know, before you start coaching, which is a whole nother 17, 18-hour day of play, you come home at least. But to be gone like you are now, I mean, it takes a very, very strong, understanding woman to allow us to do the things that we do, especially being gone from your family like you are here.
No, you're right, and I will tell you though, it's been a blessing, especially meeting Dean and the whole concept what they have here. But yeah, I mean, I'm telling you now, I had some dark moments, and all along, but I just kept going. I mean, you know, but I just never quit. But there's some times,
It's tough.
you know, we all have it. You know,
Yeah.
me and my wife, we've had those days where, you know, it's like, man, are we gonna make it, you know, another week, or we gonna, you know, is it what this could be? So all along, man, I always like to explain, because so much of my life, especially in Atlanta, has been scripted. You know what I mean? It's like if you get in trouble and do some things, but people never know, and they never know. It's like God blesses me also, where, you know, I might have, like I said, I might have been drinking at the time, borderline on alcoholism,
Right.
but I never got jammed up.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, I got help. Does that make sense?
Perfect time.
So even like now, man, like I don't drink. And all right, I'm in the hotel, there's a bar like I walk by every day.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I had to stop doing was drinking, because, you know, when drinking becomes a problem, you got to stop. So all along, man, I was going through it. Now it's this thing that you can relate to, and I talk about the NFL they can't get it right, and I don't know if they ever will. There's something that they can't find out with an intangible. Why are all of us getting depressed?
Right.
Why are all of us having issues? And they keep saying, well, it's the brain scan or whatever. It's this intangible, because guess what? It's even guys that are super successful.
Right.
Yeah,
It's, you know, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
What is it? Because I've been saying, there is no brain right now. They don't understand. There's something, because literally almost all my friends, I'm telling you, 95% of them, they're rich. They're on TV. Well, do you know what I'm talking about? It's something that's like an it factor, where all of us go through something, and it's really no way to explain it. It just happens every night.
I think for myself, I mean, I can kind of bring this whole thing
Yeah.
full circle with our conversation here,
Yeah.
talking about strip clubs. Man, when I was released from the Arizona Cardinals, I was fully depressed. You know, and I was going to strip clubs, and I was drinking, and I was doing drugs, and hanging out with the wrong people, and ultimately about a year later, I ended up having, you know, I was facing 3 or 4 felony charges, you know, thinking, you know, they're trying to hang 12 years in prison over my head,
Right.
because I wasn't doing the right things. I put a combination of, it's the competitive nature that we all have inside of us, and when that limelight kind of pulls back, and unless you've ever been in there before, like I have, people, the normal person doesn't understand it. And they say, oh, well, you know, you're just an average person, so once all the fans are done cheering for you, just go back to being a normal person. And that's not an easy thing to do.
It's really hard to do, and the problem is, I mean, I know personally for me, I identified as Jim Ballard, the quarterback.
Yep, football player.
I didn't know who I was, and you know, like you said, when you go through your whole career and you're playing and you're in the media, you know, you're being written about, and you're on TV and that whole thing, and then it's gone. You know, what do you do? I mean, you know, it took me a long time to figure out who I was, and I'm still figuring out who I was and am. I mean, it was difficult, really difficult, just the ego part of the game and everything that the game gave you that way, right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, we were different. I mean, we really were.
Why?
And then when it's gone, it's like,
It's frustrating, because I got
It's
friends
hard.
that are smart, that graduated from Stanford, got masters, but they're at home, they're depressed, and they can't get out of it. You know what I'm saying? They lose their money, they become addicts. But why is it it's like, I'm telling you, man, and I think Atlanta has one of the biggest alumni groups in the country, one of them, and we all got the same story. Even guys that have been married, they're super successful, but they got some intangible that the NFL hadn't quite figured out yet. And it's not as much to blame, because I'm telling you, my friends are all super, like, some of them have the highs, and I always say, man, people always ask me about it. I said, listen, man, because it's not just the guys who were on the lower end, it's guys that are having success and are super successful, like you, me, you. Why us?
Yeah.
Why didn't we get out and use all the tools we had that trained us to be these great warriors and stuff? So that's for another day. I don't want to bring the show down, but
Hey, wins and losses tell us a lot about ourselves, right? I was
Yes,
telling you,
sir.
man, I learned more about my losses than I ever did about any victory that I had. And I know my man now, he identifies as one half of the 1372 show, and we appreciate you
Yes, sir.
coming on, man.
Appreciate you.
We'll be catching up with you down the line. Chuck Smith joining us on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG. We'll be back from Todd Benson Hall of Fame Stadium on the grounds of the Hall of Fame Village, powered by House Controls. More after this.
At C.H. Vallis & Associates, we've been proudly serving the greater Stark County community for over 78 years. Locally owned, we cover your home, auto, business, and life insurance along with your group benefits. Our partnership with auto owners has allowed us to span not only Ohio, but throughout the entire country. Did you know that Auto Owners, an A++ rated company by AM Best and a Fortune 500 company, has ranked C.H. Vallis & Associates a top 10 insurance agency in the state of Ohio? From your basic home and auto needs to insuring some of the largest companies in America, there's a reason people choose C.H. Vallis & Associates and Auto Owners. Our dedication and passion for our clients and their coverage is part of our commitment to excellence. For all your insurance coverage needs, there's only one call to make, and that's C.H. Vallis & Associates, located at 1302 South Main Street in North Canton. Contact us at 330-494-2776 today and see the difference in customer satisfaction.